Welcome to the Brother Sinatra Podcast, a special Memorial Day edition. And we're the only podcast featuring two swinging brothers talking about Nintendo 64. I'm
We're the
Jack
only
Sinatra,
ones. And I'm Tyler Sinatra.
and we're the Brothers Sinatra. You know, I wrote pause in my notes because you always say something there. Last time you didn't really say a thing, you know, there was a little delay, so I just kind of burned through it this time. So,
Yeah, and then I did it this time. So I'm just a wild card.
You're keeping
Jackie.
me
Sometimes
on my
I say
toes,
stuff.
okay?
Yeah, sometimes I don't say stuff. Who knows?
Hi, I'm Ken Griffey Jr. Let's play Major League Baseball.
Oh, no.
That's right, Tyler. We're getting into Nintendo 64 today. But before we do, let's talk about the pod, okay? Follow us. Why don't you follow the pod? Click on the button.
You gotta follow.
Where you follow us. Click on
Please.
anything, that lets you follow or save the pod or do anything, okay? Because we want it to automatically come into your feed. We don't want you to have to search around. We want to just be there constantly.
We want to feed you.
Okay? And another way that you can see us constantly is to follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on TikTok, okay? So we're in all those places. You can find us anywhere. And if you can't remember all these various social media apparatuses, you can find us at veryentertaining.biz, okay?
I like to say apparati.
I know you do. And I like to talk about, great consoles of the past. So before we get into this, and by the way, what we're doing today, folks, is we're doing a little N64 game draft, okay?
Little draft.
It's like we're on a desert island, just two brothers, and we each have one half of the island, and we can't go into the other person's half, so you got to take the games that you want to play for the rest of time. We're only going to do 5 rounds, okay? Yeah. We were just going to do top 5s, but, we didn't want to share any games. So
I don't like sharing anything.
We have one cartridge of, each game.
Each game.
And then we can only take 5 because of the weight limits on the boat. And, then we'll just have the 5 that we play. We'll play on our own sides, and maybe we'll talk through the fence about it. But that's it, okay? We're not going to be able to play each other's games.
No. But we'll be able to talk about them, and that's almost as good.
Absolutely. And let's just talk a little bit about Nintendo 64 at a high level, what it means to us. And, I'm just going to rattle off some information first of all. So, N64 was released June 21st in Japan, 1996, on September 27th, 1996 in North America. So, I believe that I got it fairly early on. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a Christmas kind of situation for me
Jackie,
of that exact year.
How could you forget the Christmas situation?
Oh, well, it was a Christmas situation, Tyler, but here's the thing. We weren't good at sharing then either, so we each had to get our own console, and I can't remember the timing. I'm pretty sure I got mine first, and then you got all jealous, and you had to get your own separate one. And you were playing in Uncle Enzo's garage,
The Christmas situation was I was so jealous that I had to get my own.
Sure. And at the time, there were other consoles out there. So when N64 was coming out, it was competing with PlayStation, the original, and Sega Saturn. I had one friend with a Sega Saturn, and it always felt like going to an alien planet. It's like, what on earth is going on with this Sega Saturn stuff?
Yeah, and why are we playing a game with Macaulay Culkin in it? That's what I want to know. The Home Alone game, that was weird.
Yeah. But I was coming from the Sega Genesis, so I was primarily a Sega Genesis person. That was my first console, Tyler. And you, as I recall, were more into the Nintendos early on.
Oh, I was a Nintendo boy from the beginning. That's why I was so jealous of the N64, Jackie. I thought I deserved it. I deserved it after the NES.
Yeah, it was a little mix-up, I think, because I think what happened is Uncle Enzo went to the store. He saw the Sega Saturn, which would have been the natural progression for me being a Genesis boy, and he said, oh, that price tag's a little high, but here's this other, item that's a little lower. He's the older child. I got to get it for him first. But then quickly after, the tears and everything, you had to get your hands on it as well.
Absolutely just, on the ground, full-on belly tantrum,
Yep.
Hands flailing. Oh. But I got what I wanted.
So the code name, Tyler, was Project Reality. So before it came out, that was the code name. It was also known as the Ultra 64, which was one of the pre-release titles. And it was a release that was originally $199 in the United States, which is equivalent to $410 today. So to be honest with you, a pretty high price. I think
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought maybe that it was that much, but at the time, you're coming from a very 2D sensibility, and in this era, when you have the PlayStation and you have the N64,
There are polygons now.
all of a sudden, everything's in 3 dimensions, and it blew our minds at the time.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
I remember I was playing the Super Mario's 1, 2, and 3 on the NES. And then you jump to Mario 64 and you're like, oh, there, he's all real. And it's like I could reach out and touch him. That Italian plumber.
Yeah. I know. That was the only missing bit, reaching out and touching.
Yeah.
And of course,
Next
at this
time.
time, this was also kind of the height of the Game Boy. You had the weird, I don't know if you remember going into the Blockbuster, which was also, a very of this era thing. And they had the Virtual Boy set up, which I never knew anyone who owned the Virtual Boy. But
No,
I
I
do
didn't know,
remember going and seeing it at the Blockbuster. And I think one of the big N64 things, apart from the fact that, a lot of systems were now moving to the discs and Nintendo was persisting with the cartridges. So that's a big, difference. It was a funny time when, the cartridges to me as, a fairly small child were in fact better because they didn't have load time. So I remember my cousins had a PlayStation and it's like, why do I have to sit here and wait for this thing to load up? Every time we'll go into a new room.
I start it up, I hit the start button, and I get to go. Why do I have to wait for anything?
And then the other thing with the Nintendo 64 is, of course, the controller, which is bonkers, okay? It's got 3 pegs,
most insane
3 places
controller.
to put your 2 hands. So, Nintendo was always kind of pushing the envelope, especially back in this time, maybe less so today. But they really were always just trying to do weird stuff. In this era, it was the weird controller and persisting with cartridges. The GameCube comes out. Yes, they're discs, but they're weirdly small.
So tiny discs.
You can't watch DVDs on it.
No, you can't. But you know what you could do? You could carry that GameCube with the handle that they put on the back of it for some reason.
It's a nice little handle. And there were plenty of other weird things in this Nintendo 64 era. You had some cartridges, and of course, this is something that was part of other cartridge consoles, but you had some standard cartridges that are like the little kind of rounded trapezoid, but you also had some that had like a big blocky pack on top that like added extra functionality and like sometimes inbuilt memory cards and whatnot. You had like the double stackable type of cartridge situation.
Oh, so you were using the Game Shock on your console,
Well,
Jackie.
sometimes, Tyler, because, back in the day, it was like...
The Game Shock.
Yeah, the Game
Remember?
Shock. And that Game Shock allowed you to kind of, color outside the lines a little bit at times.
Dun, dun, Game Shock, Game Shock, Game Shock, Game Shock, Game Shock, Game Shock. Oh, we love the Game Shock. You could do so many things with that.
So...
Where is Game Shock now?
Where is that Game Shock? What's he doing these days?
I'm Game Shock. That's a whole nother thing.
So N64, 1996 to about 2001, that's about when we transitioned to the GameCube. So on a real hot streak. Maybe just covering some of the greatest moments of our childhood throughout. We were on the Game Boy, and when we weren't on the Game Boy, we were on the N64. And just a bunch of great games, and we are really going to get into it with this draft about who gets to play which game. Now,
I'm going to pick the best ones.
Since we did another draft in the past, we did the One Piece Season 1 live action draft.
That's
which,
true.
Is that niche enough for you?
No, I need to go more niche.
Well, we're going to broaden it a little bit. This is just a basic kind of N64 game draft.
I thought we were going to do One Piece N64.
It's going to be which N64 games that correlate to One Piece characters and, mapping out the traits as we go through. We're going to be
Right.
here for hours, folks.
But actually, we're just picking some games.
Yeah. We're going to have fun. This is Memorial Day weekend, and we're just going to, go have a nice breezy little draft. No hard feelings. I promise I won't get mad at all. Okay?
I'm definitely not really concerned that we definitely have the same number one pick, and I'm going to be
We probably do,
furious.
but you know what, Tyler? If we do, then you're getting it because you're going first. I went
going
first in the
first.
last draft, and that's
it's
just
fun.
the honorable thing to do.
That's just the way the cookie crumbles.
And the
Anyway,
reason why we're doing
Jackie,
a draft, we could have just done top fives, but we would have had so much crossover that I think we probably would have only gotten through like 6 or 7 games. So really, the
total.
goal here is to talk about 10 games, okay? So we're going to draft. We're going to have a little conversation about it. And then, we're going to go on a merry way, and that's how you do a Memorial Day draft.
We're
of
gonna
N64 games.
going merry on our way. Anyway,
Oh, boy. All right, Tyler. So let's start the draft with your number one pick.
Okay, number one. I'm picking my first favorite first.
Yeah,
That's
that's how
crazy.
drafts work, Tyler.
Oh,
it's
that
not
makes
like
sense.
a top 5 where you start at the bottom. You want to take games off the board so as I don't draft them.
Oh, see, you shouldn't have told me that. Now I'm gonna give you a chance. All right, would have given you a chance. My number one is Banjo Kazooie.
There it is.
My number one's Banjo Kazooie. I like out of the platforming games. I mean, everybody knows it's Mario 64. It changed platforming forever. But this title out of Rare Studios in 1998
Yes.
knocks my socks off every single time. The tongue-in-cheek humor, the collectible. It was a collectathon rather than just like a complete the level or a different. Mario 64 is you're getting the puzzle pieces, but in Banjo-Kazooie it was like you collected you had to get the Jinjos, you had to get the music notes, you had to get all of the Mumbo tokens, all of these things. You had to go find every little piece of the level.
Yep.
Every piece of music changed.
Yep.
Whether you were underwater.
I think that's a
part of the
really big
level.
point. I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
games, and maybe some that we're going to talk about later in the draft, where music is a really critical piece of what makes it special. But I think Banjo-Kazooie maybe is the
Incredible.
most emblematic of you go into a new space, you hear similar themes throughout, but the instrumentation and what they're able to do to create a mood and a tone within all of these spaces. I mean, first of all, when Xbox acquired Rare, it made it
Oh, he's
possible
getting heated
as
now.
an Xbox
He's getting
user.
angry.
But I'm just saying, this is a game that I replayed probably 10-ish years ago, maybe more,
Yeah.
maybe more like 15 on the Xbox. And it's just such a great, you can come to it at any time in your life, and you remember playing through there's just so many iconic levels. And to
Yeah.
be honest with you, a lot of the stuff from Banjo-Tooie also kind of bleeds into my memory from it. But Banjo-Kazooie by far had the most iconic levels. You start with Mumbo's Mountain. You got Treasure Trove Cove. I can just remember.
Treasure Trove Cove, Rusty Bucket Bay.
Oh, Rusty
the bane
Bucket
of
Bay.
my existence. Every single time I played through it multiple times, and when you get to Rusty Bucket Bay, I'm like, especially on the N64 version, because the Xbox port is slightly different because it lets you like collect a certain amount of things and it remembers what you collect.
Yeah.
The N64 version just did a counter, so it's like if you didn't get all 100 music notes, the game wouldn't remember which music notes you picked up and the ones that you didn't, so you just had to go back and pick up 1 or 2 music notes. You had to go back in and pick up every single music note. So you get to Rusty Bucket Bay, and you get all the music notes in your first run of the level, or you don't play it again, and you might as well just start over the entire run, because Rusty Bucket Bay is a fun level, but
Yeah.
I have to say it is the top of the difficulty tier in the game, and you're just like, oh my gosh, do I have to listen to Oh, forever.
I mean, I remember Clanker's Cavern the first time.
Oh,
Anytime as a
yeah.
child, as like a
Going
7-ish
underwater.
year old, having an underwater level always added just a significant amount of stress on top of what you were doing. I think
sure.
going back and playing that again as an adult, it's not one of the most difficult levels,
No.
but for me, it just always added that extra layer. I really think that Banjo-Kazooie, which came out mid-1998, just a couple of years after the console release and about 3 years before really it kind of, ended, it really represents the high period, like the golden age, I think, of N64. And for me, it's the best platformer, period, hands down, of some of the best platformers. Like, I think probably if I was to make a top 5 platformers overall,
Oh, yeah.
I think that at least 4 out of 5 would come from the N64. And Banjo-Kazooie, every single time, is number 1. Would have been my number 1 pick as well. So I think that was absolutely the right choice.
Well, I know it was the right choice, especially after I re-understood the rules of the draft, Jackie.
Well, anything else to say about Banjo-Kazooie? I mean, you got the
Oh.
level where you're a pumpkin hopping around the haunted house. You got the level where you're a
got-
bee flying around,
Yeah.
The grunty game show, which as a
The grunty-
child
the-
is
as a-
probably the most
Yeah.
why didn't I prepare for this more?
It's like you didn't think there would be a test at the end of the game, and then there's actually like a game show like test, and you're like, oh man, I thought I was just gonna fight you, and now you're quizzing
And it's all
me
like
on
inside
things.
baseball knowledge where you had to
Yeah.
actually be paying attention. It's not like, the cow
Some
goes
of the
moo.
questions, yeah, well, some of the questions too are like you can only get the answers of them if you were talking to her sister the whole
The
time.
Good
and
Witch.
getting
And
the
it-
good witch
and
and
it's
getting
like-
the flavor text.
And when she was
Yeah.
around, she was easy to ignore. It's like she just
Yeah,
kind of
'cause she was
hanging out
half-
in the various spaces as you're going
Yeah,
around to the different
she's half
like
invisible
entrances.
and would only like become more visible as you got closer. Oh my god, it was such a good game though, and it's like I just think the last thing I have to say about it, honestly, Jackie, is duh. That's all.
I always liked, and I know it's a Banjo-Tooie thing, but my favorite voice is, of course, Jolly Roger.
Oh, yeah, the Jolly.
Jolly
I
Roger,
also-
the bizarrely effeminate frog that's part of,
Yeah.
what is it, Jolly Roger
Yeah,
Bay or something like that.
I think it's just Jolly Rogers Bay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And oh gosh, every time you die, the
Oh, yeah. And you could
The-
lose the game hard. You could just get
Yeah.
that ending screen where she turns Banjo's sister, Gruntilda does, into
Yeah,
a Frankenstein
she,
type looking thing, a monster.
she flips their good looks or whatever she's
Yeah.
trying to do.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh
yeah,
my
she's
gosh.
trying to get the good looks. What a game.
Great game.
We could just have a single podcast about Banjo-Kazooie, and we probably will at some point, I think, because we're both real connoisseurs. But let's move on.
If one day I'm gonna find a port of the game online that lets us play the 2-player version of it, where it's like crazy. One of us is like evil bottles or something. There's like an insane thing that the first one was gonna do and it didn't do.
Nah.
All right, Jackie, what's your number one?
For my number one, since you took Banjo-Kazooie, and since we're talking about great platformers, I'm going to pick up the highest selling game on the N64 that was also one of my favorites, and I think has to be one of the best console release games of all time. And of course, I'm talking about Mario 64, the eminently replayable, re-releasable, fantastic open world platforming Mario game that really kind of set the stage for what a great platformer could be, and is something that I don't know if any Mario game since has been able to replicate, despite some pretty good Mario games. Even the Mario Galaxies, it's
So
like they need to
you're gonna get
just-
someone in the comments. You're
they
gonna get
simply
someone in the
need to
comments.
recreate. They need to do another Mario 64.
I agree with you 100%, but we're gonna get so much hate about you saying not Mario Galaxy doesn't live up to 64.
Listen.
I agree with you.
I think some of it is
100% agree.
nostalgia for me, but also I'd rather jump into a painting than, be rocketing off to these, I don't need the physics lesson of like being able to walk around
Yeah.
a sphere. just create fantastic levels, create some nice little secrets throughout. There's so many little hidden things that
Yeah.
in this time before you had Reddit, you were just finding this stuff, or you would hear someone in your neighborhood say, "Oh, there's,
Oh.
you can jump. Did you know that if you look up in this one part, inside, then all of a sudden you're in this secret flying level? Did you know
Yeah.
that you could jump through this window? There's
Did you know that if in the courtyard you kill all of the boos and then you double jump on top of the fountain, you can play as Luigi? That's not true. But that's one I used to hear.
Yeah, that's one of the great
There's a lot
conspiracy
of stuff
theories.
that's right. It's like there was all this stuff that you'd hear on the playground. It was like, oh, did you know? And then you'd try for hours, and then some kid was just laughing at home, like, haha, they believed me.
And again, I think you had some great music throughout, but I think it was a little bit more like you would hear the same type of music at various points. So whenever you were in a slide type level, it would be that like very, exact. Yep, exactly. So throughout, you would
Oh,
have.
I probably shouldn't do that. We could probably get in
Don't worry.
trouble for doing
It was
that.
probably out of sync anyway.
Yeah.
But
We
I
shouldn't
think
do that.
I think Mario 64 walked so that Banjo-Kazooie could run.
I think
Obviously,
so,
Banjo-Kazooie has the added thing where you're kind of two characters at once. You got Banjo bits and you got Kazooie bits. With Mario 64, you're just Mario, but you got to learn all the skills. You got to learn, like, especially as a child, and since this was one of the early releases, I would have been like 5 years old when Mario 64 actually came out. So between the ages of 5 and 7, like mastering the triple wall jump and that kind of thing, you felt such a sense of accomplishment. And by the way, some of the worst camera situations in the world with this game. And
Lakitu.
and let's take it back to the controller. You had the C buttons. You had those four
Yeah.
yellow buttons,
Oh,
and that was how
yeah.
you were supposed to control the camera. You could only put your hands so many places on that thing. They course corrected when this came out for the DS,
Yes, yeah.
or was it the 3DS?
It was the 3DS, yeah. It was the weird.
So
clamshell
when you could
thing.
play it with a standard kind of dual stick, which is now, across the board, even with Nintendo, it's like they provide that for you now.
industry standard.
So it's a lot more manageable to play now. But I mean, back in the day, they would kind of control the camera for you, and you had a little influence through these buttons. But man, you got into some sticky situations where it was like,
like,
why can't
yeah,
I see what I'm doing here?
you could get closer, further away, or adjust it to like whatever it decided how far to the right or to the left the camera could make it. And sometimes it was just a little bit, and sometimes it was like there was an obstacle, so it would be like, woo, and it would flip you onto the crazy. What a day that was trying to figure out that camera.
Probably the most time I've ever spent in lava worlds as you're trying to get to Bowser in these various places and, dying a
Yeah.
lot. And also the boss battles with Bowser. I think some of the most quintessential boss battles of you got to like kind of get him to where you can grab his tail, you whip him around, you throw him at, various objects.
You say the most iconic line in maybe all video game history. So long, Gay Bowser.
So that's my number one is Mario 64.
Oh, great choice, Jackie.
let's go to round two, Tyler.
I am glad I picked Banjo now. All right, round two.
I think I know where you're going here.
You think you know where I'm gonna go?
If
That's what
if
probably
you
do.
don't pick what I think you're gonna pick, then I'm gonna pick it.
Oh, okay. I'm picking the original Super Smash Brothers.
Yep, that's what I thought.
Yeah. Since we were playing flat platformers, now we're on to platform fighters. The original and best platform fighter, at least series. This was the first one I ever played, Super Smash Brothers. If there's a big argument in the fighter community. It's like true fighters, meaning like you're using multiple directionals and then a button to make a move, versus the platform fighters, which is like a combination of like two button presses or a single button press. The way you play the game. There's an argument in the fighting game community, which is more of a fighting game. I don't care to get into that. What I care to say is that I spent more hours in this game playing with my friends than maybe any other game I've ever played
Yep.
outside of other titles called Super Smash Brothers, right? So it's like the Melees, the Brawls, the Ultimates, played them all. This was the original.
Yep.
This is what started everything. It originally started as just a regular, fighting game until it was suggested by Sakurai to have it be a crossover of all these different, IPs that they had.
Yeah. And I
Now
think
it's-
people think of Super Smash Brothers in general as a multiplayer game, and it was.
Yeah.
However, I think it has maybe not an underrated, but maybe an often forgotten fantastic solo mode.
And
that had a really
incredible.
great story,
The Master Hand, this is, oh yeah. I mean, if you're watching the intro scene and you're realizing what's going on, it's like ultimately you're little fighting, you're playing with your toys and your hands. This is how I always interpreted it, at least. It's like your hands are the ones playing with the toys, and then you're using them to fight, and then they turn against you at the end, and it's like they fight the hand off, and they're real. They're actually fighting, and I always thought that was such an interesting little. It was so cool, oh man, running through the arcade version, or I guess it was story mode in the original, and then they had the events too. All of the different game modes you could play. Oh man, the Polygon Warriors. There was just so many different things that they did, and the unlockable characters. Oh, you got the Jigglypuffs, the Luigis, oh wait, Falco's not in this one, is he?
Is it not?
Falco's in Melee. No, I think it was. Oh my gosh, you're thinking of Captain Falcon. Captain Falcon was in it, but it was.
Oh, yeah.
Ness. Ness was one of them. Jigglypuff, Luigi, and who was the other? Oh, it's been so long.
And so this
Oh.
came out in January of 1999. So, I mean, just imagine you're playing Banjo-Kazooie, through 1998. Then all of a sudden, post-Christmas, you get your hands on Super Smash Brothers in the dead of winter, Tyler. I mean, can't go wrong.
No, and you know what else you could do? You could play as Kirby, and nobody knew what you were doing, and you just float above them and crush them as the.
I think Kirby was my probably most played character for that reason.
Yeah, no, exactly. As
Yeah.
a kid, I didn't know how to do anything else.
Yep.
Oh, it was Captain Falcon. Captain Falcon was one of the hidden characters in the original. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
The Falcon Punch, I mean, just a great
Yeah.
finishing move there.
Gosh.
You also, I feel like I played as DK quite a bit if I wanted a bruiser.
Yeah, and
He had that that windmill kind of punch.
Yeah. When his up B, Jackie. Yeah. And this is it's interesting because it's gone on. Melee has become, I think, one of the most technical, still living fighting games. If you're still doing the Melee and you're playing on a high level, you need to be doing a lot of crazy stuff. There's a lot of meta that's still happening today, and this is what started it all. And to not mention it in a draft list of games when its posterity is still living on, and not only have I heard rumors they're making another one on the Switch too, but people still play Ultimate, people still play Melee, people still play 64, but just not nearly at the level that, Ultimate and Melee.
Yeah.
No love for Brawl. I don't know why. I do. I know why.
So Super Smash Brothers is your second round pick. I think that's a fantastic
That's my
pick.
second, yeah.
I would have
What's
picked
yours,
it second
Jackie?
if you had
Well,
not.
then you can't.
I think that what I'm going to do now is go and take something that I think deserves to come off the board with my second pick. Now, there were two fantastic games from this franchise within the N64 era. Of course, it's a franchise like Mario that extended well, before, but this was my first interaction with this particular franchise. And of course, I'm talking about Zelda Ocarina of Time. So,
Okay.
Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time one of the most difficult games that I remember playing as a
Yeah.
whatever 6-year-old. Let me just see when this came out. It came out in 1998. So, yeah, November of 98. So I was probably at this time still playing a lot of Banjo-Kazooie. But I do remember this wasn't a game that I spent a ton of time with on my console. I don't even remember if I owned it, to be honest with you, Tyler, but I
Yeah.
do remember one friend in particular that had this game. And I remember spending many hours on sleepovers doing the Ocarina of Time. It had so many little things that made it really difficult. Number one, I think in my mind, apart from the water temple, which is I think something everyone brings up with this game.
Yeah.
It's just another
Yeah.
example of being a child and having an underwater level. And I mean that legacy goes well before into Mario underwater. I mean underwater levels in general just
Oh,
used to
yeah.
be a really big problem. But
I
in
mean,
this one,
the
I remember
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Sure.
This electrical seaweed thing is is
Oh,
like
yeah.
a yeah.
But in this one, I mean, the biggest thing that I remember is the memory game aspect of, the tunes that you actually played on the aforementioned Ocarina of Time. So you had that aspect. You had just a nice open world experience. I think less platforming than some of the other ones. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first 3D Zelda that they made. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think so. I think it is the first one.
I believe so as well, because of
Yeah.
course Majora's Mask came a couple
came
of years
after.
after
It was in,
this
like,
and had its
2000.
own. For me, Ocarina of Time, if I had to pick one of the two, is the one that I would pick because I think it was more groundbreaking. I think about it more. The only time that I think about Majora's Mask is when you're talking about time loop narratives and that sort of thing. But I remember playing Ocarina of Time more and enjoying playing it more. Maybe not as much as a Banjo-Kazooie or a Mario 64, but another fantastic game, fantastic world, and obviously as time has gone on, there's so many great Legend of Zelda games. If I had to pick one overall from the franchise, not including all eras, the one that I actually played the most is Wind Waker, that came
Oh,
out in the
GameCube.
Wii
Yeah.
era. So I
Oh,
can't.
I thought Wind Waker was on the GameCube.
I think it was a re-release that I played because
Oh, okay.
I didn't have GameCube, so I think it was a re-release that I got into it. And I haven't played any of them, and either two of the more modern ones. I haven't gotten to those yet. I just got a Switch 2 a couple months ago, so maybe I'll get to the updated versions
Yeah.
at some point. But I got to be honest with you, folks, they're too expensive right now. I'm not paying like $80 for something what came out.
I gotta
a few
tell
years
you
ago.
though, Breath of the Wild is great. I didn't
I've heard.
fully
Yeah,
finish
I've
the
heard
game, but it's a great it's worth the money for it, especially now since I think that one's cheaper compared to the newest one.
Yeah. So, anything else to say about Hyrule or?
I did wanna mention one thing because we were so adamant about music being important in games. I think the Zelda franchise has some of the best music, like especially because you're playing the ocarina, but like the background music as well. Hyrule Temple's music, I think people hear it, when you're out in the field. I think a lot of people would recognize it. It's just like that. It's a lot of Dorian stuff going on. It's just a very cool. It's always been cool. The Zelda music's iconic, I think, and I just felt like we should mention it as well.
Yep. All right. Let's leave our rupees behind and go to round 3.
Well, Jackie, if we're leaving some rupees behind, we might as well plant a few seeds because my number 3 is Harvest Moon.
Harvest
64.
Moon.
Yeah.
So this had
I-
to have been released in Japan like a while before it made its way to the U.S. And to be honest with you, Tyler, this is one that I never played. I know of it mainly
Yeah.
from Super Smash Brothers. I think that is the genius thing about Super Smash is that as a Nintendo owner, you probably knew maybe 60% of the characters, and then there were some that's like, where's this person from? And then it
Yeah.
would kind of open. It was really kind of an ingenious marketing ploy at the end of the day. That it became a classic on its own just speaks to the level of craftsmanship. But I mean, yeah, for me, seeing Ness in Super Smash Brothers was the very first thing.
Hold on. I thought you were gonna talk about like a trophy thing or something in Melee. No. You're thinking of Earthbound.
Oh, Earthbound. You see, Tyler, it's
you're
all
gonna
planets to me.
You're gonna get rubbed in the comments real bad, Jackie. Harvest Moon 64 is
played
a
either, Tyler.
farming simulator game,
Okay,
Jackie.
well,
it's like
even
it's
less.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, unfortunately, this is a weird pick. This is for those kids who are out there today playing their Stardew Valleys. You know what I mean? This is what I consider to be like the original. It's that's what I think Stardew Valley is the spiritual successor to. If I were to like pinpoint a game that I think Stardew is going for, it's this one.
So are there any iconic characters from this game that have
I
popped up
mean,
elsewhere? Because
like
we've already pointed out, I think this is my number one conflation issue that has come up over and over throughout my life. I guarantee you there have been like 7 times where this exact thing has happened and I've been corrected and I've completely forgotten that Earthbound and Harvest Moon are separate games.
To figure out where, because like I think maybe Harvest Moon has like a trophy or something in Melee, but it would not be something that you'd be like, oh yeah, that's a guy. But the thing is, I understand, like, if you were to look at the cover of Harvest Moon, you'd be like, that guy it might be Ness, because he's just wearing a backwards cap. And, like,
maybe this is part of my issue.
Remarkably,
like, that's my only interaction with this has probably been seeing, like, a cover, like, 9 times in my life.
Yeah, it makes sense, but, like, the Earthbound cover doesn't have Ness on it at all. So it's like...
I just know of Ness through Super Smash.
Right, exactly.
So all the rest of it is, like...
No, but... Comments, don't blame him. He knows.
They're gonna blame me. It's fine. I'll probably cut this anyway. I mean, clip it. I'll clip it up.
Technically, it's like Mother, like whatever. It doesn't matter. The series I think is called. I think Ness is in Mother 3, but it's the Earth. It doesn't matter. People are gonna get mad at me too.
I think Ness is just one of those like developer favorites that like. They just included him in Super Smash, and like that is probably where 90% of people know him from is Super Smash.
I mean,
his baseball bat.
I just think the gaming markets in different countries are so different that it's like for America, Ness doesn't mean anything, but in like that's probably what I think it is. Same with like the like Marth and Roy and the Fire Emblem characters. I think Fire Emblem has like a much smaller following in the United States than it does in Japan. So it's like, but everyone loves Marth. So
anything else to say about Harvest Moon? Because I got nothing, Tyler.
Other than that it's not Earthbound? Yeah, I've got a couple more things
That's an important point. Maybe it'll sink in this time.
It's, well, honestly, there's not much to explain. You work on a farm. If you're familiar with farming simulators as they've like progressed and as they are now, it's pretty much the same thing. You meet people in town, you try to get on the good side, you shop, you do all those things, you have interactions with different people, you can get married. Ultimately, you're trying to make, money for your farm, and there are little secrets. In Harvest Moon, there's like a little pond that you can throw some things into, and like a lady comes out of the pond and she says some stuff. There's some fairies. It's like very, it's both whimsical and, sort of for people who like to be organized. It's like there's a time limit. Each day does a certain thing. You farm, you do this stuff. It's a fun, relaxing thing with a bit of whimsy. Less, customization as there is now in modern gaming. But if you really want to see where modern farm sim games have come from, Harvest Moon 64 is the pick. That's my number 3, Jackie. It had great music too.
All right. So that's your number 3. My number 3, since we're just picking stuff,
Since we're just picking stuff.
Since we're just picking stuff that we like.
Wow, since we're just picking stuff.
Since we're not being strategic anymore.
That's the most jaded thing I've ever seen. That's actually my number 3. That's not nice. I like that game.
What I'm going to do, I think there's kind of 2 games that could go in this third slot for me that are basically a very similar concept. But I've already kind of taken something in the Mario realm, and I think it depends on who you are as to which one is the correct answer. One of them is a franchise that's much more long-lived than the one that I'm going with, but this one that I'm going with is one of my favorite games that never had an update and a really just an interesting artifact. And I think it's one of those games that's easy to memory hole, like, did this even exist? And, like, it's hard to chart out, like, when this even happened. And if you ask someone to name characters from this game, you'd probably get, like, 2 or 3, but, like, definitely not all of them. And that is the 1997 racing game Diddy Kong Racing, Tyler.
Oh, yeah. Diddy Kong Racing.
Diddy Kong Racing came out in 97. This is well before Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah, but he was in there.
He was in there. This is the first time we see him, I believe.
Yeah.
And there's no Kazooie. You have no concept that there is a Kazooie at all.
Yeah.
But basically, if I can just get to the list here, I found, let's see, where are all these races? You have Diddy, obviously. You've got Banjo. You've got Conker the Squirrel. You've got...
Or it's Crush, I think his name is, the alligator.
Crunch the Kremling.
Crunch the Kremling. Oh, yeah, because the Kremlings are from Donkey Kong.
Yeah, and then you got Tip Top the Turtle.
Yeah, Tip Top. What about Pipsy?
Pipsy the Mouse. You got Bumper the Badger, Tyler.
Bumper.
We never got a Bumper Badger story.
Yeah, where's Bumper?
But then we got basically the main bad guy, Whizpig. So
Whizpig.
The whole game revolved around, I had a single player mode where you would go and basically your goal was to beat Whizpig. The thing that sets this apart from Mario Kart, which is the other game that I was alluding to that I could have picked, also a classic game in its own right that, opened it up to characters in the Mario sphere. But Diddy Kong Racing, I think iconic because it had 3 separate modes of conveyance. So in every race, you could either do a kart race, which is kind of your standard Mario Kart, but then you had a hovercraft race that was more, sea-bound, and then you also had airplanes where,
the planes, Jackie.
Just a fantastic game. Yeah. I read a little bit beforehand, and basically Rare kind of rushed this out the door because Banjo-Kazooie was taking longer than maybe they thought it would, and they had to get something out there to just get Rare IP going, because, of course, they have the Donkey Kong games, but it took them a long time to get a Donkey Kong game out for the N64. So they had to get something out there. They made this racing game, and I think it's just insane that this is something that's never been followed up on. When you think about the tragedy of Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, what if they had instead gone ahead and created Diddy Kong Racing 2, The Search for More Diddies?
Yeah. You go into space again. And
well, imagine that. Imagine that they add a space mode to Diddy Kong Racing. They could have had like an underground, kind of like where they're in like Mole Man, spinning.
Oh, yeah, that'd be cool. Like digging cars.
And you could have included so many of the characters from Banjo-Kazooie, probably being the most popular of, the rare things outside of Donkey Kong.
They were trying to make a Diddy Kong Racing like update, but it was for the Game Boy, and it ended up being Banjo Pilot. And they it was all IP from Banjo-Kazooie because I think it was after Rare was... It was something to do with the fact they couldn't use Donkey Kong anymore for something. I forgot what it was. Like they didn't want Diddy
it's probably
anymore.
Because I think when Xbox bought Rare, they got everything but Donkey Kong. I think that is the rub there.
Right.
Yeah, because Donkey
So
Kong
wait.
is still in the Nintendo sphere, but Xbox got like your Conquer the Squirrels and your your banjos and whatever.
They're not using them. Sorry,
Well,
I'm not mad. I'm not mad.
I think Xbox is by far like at one of their lowest ebbs, but the new CEO has done a couple of things that makes me, if not confident, optimistic about that there may be a future for Xbox. I just wish that someone would lean into Rare and do one for the team. Or if
okay.
Nintendo
There's a lot of-
reacquired Rare, honestly, that'd probably be the best thing for everybody.
Well,
but
to be honest,
not gonna
Jackie,
happen.
I don't know if you've kept up with going on a tangent for a moment with Rare. Sea of Thieves is the current game, and they are not having a good moment. Like outside of the fact that Xbox hasn't produced anything with Rare for a while, it's like they had like a social upheaval moment that was like they did some bad stuff and as far as I'm aware, like the people who should have known knew and apparently did nothing, and they still haven't like. I don't want to go into it anymore.
Yeah.
Than that. It's just like it's one of those things where we found out something and everyone's like, "Is that true?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, it is true. That's really screwed up." And you guys kind of knew the whole time, and people were trying to tell you about it, and you just kind of didn't. Gross. And that's where everyone is now.
But for that one fleeting moment, we had fantastic, racing fun.
Oh, yeah,
with a lot of
racing
good friends. It was like
Yeah.
they were kind of like the Temu Mario gang for some, but for me, they were kind of the number ones. I had Mario Kart and Diddy Kong Racing, and I'm telling you, I enjoyed Diddy Kong Racing more. So it's like
Yeah.
what could have been, if they.
I went back and played it just recently, and honestly, there are some parts of it that I find hard now, and I'm like, wow, this is not. And I play Mario Kart Deluxe on the Switch or whatever, and I'm almost like full 3 stars on everything, 200 cc's, all of it, reverse, and there's stuff in Diddy Kong Racing that's like, I cannot believe they were trying to make children do this. This is
Yeah.
crazy. If I didn't know, like, there's a couple of things about Diddy Kong Racing. If you keep clicking accelerate in a certain, like, tempo, the game thinks that you're not at full speed and it keeps pushing your car, not like faster and faster, but over what the normal speed is supposed to be. And if I had not known that, there's many, many races I would not have been able to win. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I wasn't doing that as a kid. Anyway,
All right, let's get to round 4, Tyler. Your 4th pick.
round 4, my 4th pick. Oh, Jackie, you better start breaking some vases and getting those rupee pouches back because it's Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, Jackie.
Okay, you took Majora's Mask.
You gotta get Skull Kid, Jackie. You
Skull
gotta
Kid.
get him. He's a little mischievous boy who put on a demon mask, and now he's bringing the moon straight to your town. What are
Tough
you gonna
one.
do? What are you gonna do?
It's a
Get the
real
Gorons
melancholia
to stop
moment.
it? Yeah, you can't stop it unless you do some sort of Groundhog Day time loop to figure out how to get everybody in the right place at the right time to stop him.
Yeah,
Honestly,
probably one of the most interesting starts to a game that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be in the right headspace because it's almost like to your brain at that time, it's like, wait a minute, did I just lose in the first 5 minutes of this game? And then, you need to kind of play it beyond that to get to the core of what's actually going on here. But it really threw up a challenge to my underdeveloped mind. I think I was 9 years old when this came out. And
Yeah.
to be honest with you, I didn't spend a ton of time with Majora's Mask. But over time, I think that its stature has only grown. Whereas I believe just in the streets at that time, it was like almost slightly disappointing. People wanted more Ocarina 2.
Yeah.
But again, I think over time, it's something that has only increased in the respect and admiration.
I think so too, and I feel the same way. part of the reason it's Majora's Mask is because, yeah, I do think Ocarina is a better game. I think the boss fights are ultimately better. But the idea of. This was the first time I had ever come across the idea of playing through the same, like, series of events over and over again, or, like, restarting and, like, knowing that these characters go from this place to this place at this time. Over and over. It like, and I talked about Harvest Moon a little bit. That's kind of what Harvest Moon does too. It's like you know that every day from this time to this time this thing happens, but it's like every day of the week. It's on a more macro scale. This is like you're playing the same 72 hours over and over and over again, and if you know what's going on, you can like go and like do your little tasks and find your masks and ultimately win the game. But it's like and I think there are speed runs now that can like beat it in the first day or something. It's like it was always about like going back in time, being as most time management. How do you like do it as quickly as possible? That was like a fun little puzzle of the game too. And I just I don't think I ever beat it as a child, but I just remember being so amazed by the idea of oh, I'm in this loop and I can just restart the day. Do you know what I mean? It's like if everything goes up in smoke and I mess it all up, I can just go back to the start and like do it again. Yeah, I lose all of my or like the progress I would have made, but I could just start over. And I just thought that was very fun, a really good concept for a game directly after you had such success with Ocarina of Time, and then sort of turning a concept on its head. It's not the same game as Ocarina of Time. It gives you flavors of it, but it didn't stay as true to form as they could have doing an Ocarina 2 or something like that. And I think overall the gaming community was better for it, even though you're right, it did not have as much acclaim out of the gate as, you know, the Ocarinas did. But great game overall. Always fun to revisit. Anything that gives you 72 hours, it's a fun little nugget. Mention Dead Rising. I love time-based games now because of it. It's like Dead Rising on the original Xbox did a very similar thing. It's like you have 72 hours until you get picked up, and the same sort of events happen you like play the game through those 72 hours, but if you do certain things in a certain order and achieve a certain thing, there's like an extended past the 72 hours and you play a little bit further into the game. It's just a very cool thing, and none of that would have happened without something like Majora's Mask. We thank you.
Very nice. So my number 4, just to get something different here, and definitely one of the games that I played the most with other people, multiplayer, but also something where I remember playing the first level, maybe the most of any other first level that I've ever played of any game. Mainly because this is one of those games that at the time I was playing it, when the difficulty increased, especially, you know, as a 6-ish-year-old, which is how old I was when this came out, anything with sneaking or espionage was not my forte, let's say, but it was a game that I enjoyed playing and corresponded with probably my favorite movie within this franchise. And of course, I'm talking about GoldenEye 007. Yeah. One of the best first-person shooters of the 1990s. And I think if you're making a top 5, Doom is going to be in there. And GoldenEye is definitely going to be part of that top 5.
Duke Nukem, maybe.
Sure.
I don't know.
Here's the thing. 007, I think, probably kicked off the golden era. I mean, to think that there are only maybe 4 years between this game and Halo 1 is kind of hard to believe.
Yeah.
Just where the first-person shooter, and I mean, within there, I guarantee you have a Call of Duty probably within that time span. It's when you still have your Medal of Honors and all of that. But I remember a flurry of first-person shooters, a lot of them World War II oriented. But 007 GoldenEye, probably the most time I've spent playing a first-person shooter, other than maybe the exception of Time Splitters 2.
I was going to say, dude, the only one
Yeah.
is Time Splitters 2.
But that one I played on Xbox. That was not an
Yeah,
N64
not the same.
release. But when you're talking N64, you just got 4 controllers hooked up. You're doing the split screen. You always had the person that was odd job, and they were like, just kneeling down and chopping.
Yeah, it's like, nah, no odd job. Everybody plays no odd job.
And you had Jaws, you had the Jaws
yeah.
character. It was a great introduction for me because at that time, Pierce Brosnan was the James Bond. He was my James
yeah.
Bond. Still is my James Bond, Tyler.
Yeah. Mine too.
GoldenEye, one of my favorite films. Great Sean Bean performance in GoldenEye. Okay? Great, what's her name? Her name, man. It's one of those really bad James Bond female names. Her name was something on a top because she, it was like one of those. She was always on the top.
Oh, is that what it was a joke about? Oh, I didn't know.
Well, I'll tell you, when I was 6, I didn't understand that was a wordplay joke. But she was Jean Grey in the X-Men. And I cannot believe I can't think of this. Oh, Natalia. Or no, Natalia was the good girl. I don't remember, Tyler. I don't remember the name.
Yeah, I don't
of,
remember. I don't remember the movie, so.
Oh, that's a fantastic movie. You don't remember at the end when Sean Bean is like hanging from they're at the big satellite dish and Pierce has him by the hand and Sean Bean's like, "For England, James?" And he's like, "No, for me." And he drops him.
That is good.
But yeah.
That's back
you had
when
the evil Russian girl.
007 was all smooth. He was a smoothie, and now he's like a regular action star now.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a regular action star, but yeah, and this time it was just cool Pierce Brosnan. And some of the, I think the most iconic piece of GoldenEye is the intro when he's at the dam. When he's at the dam and he does the bungee jump. And that's kind of what the first level of this game was in the single player, and that's the level I played over and over and over again.
I thought you were talking about the opening where he like walks out to the center and then you scope in and he does the shot thing.
Oh no. I'm talking about
duh.
like you infiltrate the dam, and then I think technically after you do the bungee jump, the second level, I kind of merge those together. So the second level where you start above the bathroom stall. And you drop in and get the guy in the bathroom stall, and then you're kind of sneaking through the bunker.
Yeah.
So that's some of my favorite
stuff.
single player. Certainly the
really
only
cool.
like sneaky type espionage stuff I did on the N64, and I did it a lot.
And then the watch stuff, all of the it was so cool.
Oh yeah. And you had the silence pistol. Again, it's just like. I also spent a little bit of time. There was a Mission Impossible game that came out for N64 that, again, I didn't own, but a friend of mine had, and it was pretty bad. And I just remember losing so much of that game. It kind of threw me off anything to do with sneaking around for a long time. Maybe, I don't think I picked up a sneaky game again until Thief 3, which I got to kind of later in the Xbox era.
Yeah. But Thief's a great series, too. Thief is...
So that's my fourth pick is GoldenEye. Let's get to the fifth round. Tyler, what is your final pick of this thing?
Speaking of sneaking around, you're going to have to sneak around if you want to get a good picture of these classic Pokemon.
Oh,
in Pokemon Snap. Oh,
great pick.
Jackie, I got to tell you, out of the game, like I said before off the pod, that I was sort of picking games by probably how much time I spent with them more than like what I think. Because if I was going to be a real nerd, I said this, I'd have just picked like Clay Fighter or something that I know that the internet would be like, oh, you guys are really cool. You know about Clay Fighter? You know about Clay Fighter? Or I'd have picked Perfect Dark because everybody's like, oh, yeah, you're cool. You know about Perfect Dark. No, I didn't play Perfect Dark when I was that young because my parents were afraid it would taint my mind. So you
Perfect
couldn't-
Dark was also a very late stage
Yeah,
N64 game.
and
I missed it
it's
entirely.
like-
I wasn't aware of Perfect Dark until the sequel came out, to be honest with
right, and I'm like, I didn't get gun games either. Those weren't like allowed. So I went played 007 at a friend's house.
Mm.
I didn't. I got my Pokemon Snaps. I got my Harvest Moons, and I love those games.
you. Pokemon Snap is
And
a fantastic game.
Pokemon Snap is a fantastic game, and I don't think that they did the new one justice. They should have just remade the original Pokemon Snap, and
I think the biggest frustration as a child was playing maybe one of the best games of the 90s, top 3, which was the original red or blue version of Pokemon on Game Boy, and just desperately wanting them to recreate that experience on the N64 and
Yeah.
them not even attempting it. They had Pokemon Stadium, Pokemon
Yeah.
Snap. Snap was probably the best one, and then as I was going through the games today, I forgot this game even existed, but it
You're gonna
was
say
one of the
Pokemon Puzzle League?
most no.
Okay.
It was the most frustrating Pokemon experience I've ever had. A game called Hey You Pikachu. You remember
Oh
this?
yeah, I remember Hey You Pikachu. Of course.
Probably the most frustrated I've ever been in a
Yeah.
Pokemon game, where you have to tell Pikachu what to do, and it's just like,
Pikachu.
and it's like he's not
Pikachu.
doing what you're telling him to do, and it's like
Sit down, Pikachu.
I probably the most rage quitting I've ever done in a Pokemon game was Hey You Pikachu.
But hey, speaking of Nintendo being innovative, you could just plug that microphone into your controller.
Yeah.
That microphone just plugged right into your controller.
That was what they
How
were trying to
this-
do all the time, is just do like these little gimmicky things, and some of them were
And they
great
did it.
and some of them were not, and that one for
Yeah,
me
Hey You Pikachu was not.
Hey You Pikachu was the only one that I put on like my negative list. I created this like when I got to that game, it was the only game that was on like my absolutely not
one.
minus list.
I have a one for the minus list
Do you?
that I like. Okay, we'll talk about it later.
Okay.
But just like everyone knows Pokemon Snap, you throw little, I think they were called Pestaballs, apples.
Oh yeah.
And then there was like a Poke Flute thing that you could do for some things, but ultimately you were just trying to egg the Pokemon or neg them to get them to do something, to get a good enough picture, to have Professor Oak say, "Oh wow, good job, you did
Yeah.
it." And then you open up the next level, blah 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 blah. There's some like secret pictures you could take that were like pictures of the environment that ended up counting for, but ultimately it was a nice on rails, just you clicked the level, you knew it was going to play all the way through, you clicked some stuff, got some pictures, very easy, very fun. There are fun speed runs of this too because it's on rails. There are ways to like skip parts of the level if you throw a pester ball very early. It's very fun. An easy, fun game, especially for people who grew up with the original Pokemon. I was obsessed with this game growing up. I would play through the levels over and over again just to see these Pokemon in 3D or make the Pikachu surf on the surfboard.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's a good pick. Yeah, Pokemon Snap, probably the best Pokemon game that came out on the N64.
People are going to make fun of you about that too. They're going to say Stadium.
I
and
don't think
agree with
Stadium
you
was
about
that
it.
good,
I don't think
to be honest
Stadium's
with
that
you.
good either. Yeah.
I don't think it was that good. I think that what I always wanted from a Pokemon game never really came out on the N64, and really, to be honest with you, hasn't come out to this day. I think if I was going to say what is the best Pokemon game that's come out on a non-handheld system, I think the answer right now is Pokopia. I do think that that's the
Oh.
best one.
Okay.
I think it's overtaken Pokemon Snap. I think Snap is probably in second place now for the best stuff that's come out on console. There's just some of it, especially if it gets into like the JRPG elements. That like just I'm not a big JRPG guy, to be honest with you. So until they create something compelling that kind of recreates the feeling and the vibes of the Game Boy without just directly, I know that you can get the Game Boy stuff on the Switch now.
Yeah,
You could
right.
absolutely do that. I'm just saying, like, I still
A
think that
full-on
there is
3D
out there a
experience.
compelling 3D, Pokemon that recreates what they're doing in the Game Boy, but takes it to the next degree. I think it would be a heck of an undertaking, and like very difficult, but I do think it's possible and something I would still play if it came out.
It's one of those things where it's like, I think we've talked about this before. It's like, what if a different studio ran your game? And it's like, that's
Yeah.
another one I would be like, hey, Rockstar, do you know what would be really cool?
That'd be wild.
Hey,
Yeah,
that'd be an
wild.
incredible game. I don't know how they'd handle it, but I think Rockstar is one of my favorite. They only come out with a game every like 10 years, but like when they do, the game is just so good. It's like, if they treat any game like they did Red Dead Redemption 2, it's like, I don't know what to tell you, folks. They'll never miss again. So
Yeah. All right, so I'll do my fifth pick, and then we can talk about some honorable mentions real quick. It's really tough for me. You know, I can go pure hard on this one, or I can pick variety.
Go pure of heart, Jackie.
If I'm going purely on heart, before we did this exercise and we started this draft, we originally were just going to do a top 5. And this game actually came number 3 on my top 5 that I was building based off of my heart. I got 4 out of 5 of the games in my top 5. You only took my number 1, which is Banjo-Kazooie. But my number 3 that I put in my top 5, that to this day, a lot of people say that it's really buggy and that it had a lot of issues.
Oh,
And
I know what game this is.
I don't remember any of that at all. I remember only the good times. I remember only the fantastic intro. I remember
finally
only
here.
the fabulous, song that would play when you got one of those golden bananas. And of course,
Perform
I
it
remember the
for
yellow
you.
cartridge, Tyler. It's
Yeah.
Donkey Kong 64.
It's a great game, Jackie. I love Donkey
It's
Kong.
one of my
It is
favorites.
buggy.
And it has
It's
to be,
buggy.
for me, my third favorite platformer
Yeah, it's so
of
good.
the system, which, if you looked at my top 5, all of the top 3 were platformer games because I think that
Yeah.
N64 was a platforming console.
think so,
Banjo-Kazooie,
too.
Mario 64, but Donkey Kong 64 to me was the third best platformer and my third favorite game. I had a lot of fun with Donkey Kong 64. You had the ability, whereas in Mario 64, you're just one guy. In Banjo-Kazooie,
You're just one guy.
you're just 2 guys. Well, a girl,
Well, a
but
guy and a girl. Yeah.
colloquially guys.
Right.
And then in Donkey Kong 64, you can be any of the Donkey Kong family, okay? And
Yeah.
they each get their own fabulous introduction in
Except
the
Lanky
context of a
Kong.
rap song, okay?
Lanky Kong's isn't that nice. Lanky's is pretty mean.
Yeah, but he's there for variety, and all of them have their own uses.
Yeah, Lanky was my favorite.
Yeah, Lanky
Even
was
though
great.
he got totally rolled in the rap.
Yeah.
He
But,
has no style.
If you
He
ever...
has no grace.
Yeah, he played the
This
trombone.
Kong has
This
a
is red
funny
flag.
face.
Yep. Tough one for Lanky.
Tough one.
Was he the one that could inflate himself just like a balloon?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did a lot of fun stuff, at least, Lanky.
Inflate
you know.
himself. Just like a balloon. This crazy Kong just digs this tune.
I'm telling you, there's no other game that I've listened to a song from it on Spotify more than Donkey Kong 64. I'll tell you that. So
Yeah.
DK64, I don't even know how much more to say. It just had a great environment, fun levels. Each character had their own gun, which was fun. You had the pistol, the peanut pistol
Yeah,
for
peanut
Diddy.
pistols. Diddy.
You had the coconut gun for Donkey Kong. Each of them had their
Yeah.
own kind of thing, and again the banana. When
Yeah.
you got one of those golden
I
bananas.
could play it. I could play it right now. Do you want me to play the sound
Play
over
it,
the Discord
Tyler.
thing?
It's time.
Hold on. It's finally my time to play the banana sound.
I don't know if it'll come through. I can hear it. I don't know if. people
Yeah,
in
it's
the
gonna only
podcast
be on
will
the
hear it.
Discord
Yeah,
thing.
but
We
I
won't have it on
enjoyed
the-
it.
Yeah, you enjoyed
Had
it.
that little drum in it.
It had even it's the whole thing.
Banana.
Banana.
All right, so that's the draft. Just to go back through, so your list: Banjo-Kazooie number 1. You had Super Smash Brothers number 2. You
Harvest
had
Moon,
Harvest
64.
Moon 64. Majora's Mask, and then you had
Pokemon Snap.
Pokemon Snap. I had Mario 64, And then I had Ocarina of Time. Then, where's my 3? Oh, Diddy Kong Racing.
Yeah.
I had
How could you
GoldenEye
forget?
007 and then Donkey Kong 64. So a lot of representation from some of our favorite, simian companions on my list.
Well,
then-
Jackie, do you have an honorable mention? Because I have one honorable mention.
Okay, say yours, and then I'm just going to say like 10 titles rapid fire.
Okay, my honorable mention, the port to beat all ports, straight from the PlayStation, Gex, Enter the Gecko.
Gex Enter the Gecko.
You-
Yes, I played this on 64 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
There's a lot of missing content on the N64 version, as it turns out, but it doesn't really matter. Gex is a tongue-in-cheek little gecko who's sort of a secret agent who's also doing a bunch of silly movie quips the whole time and talking about how he doesn't want to have to drink tap water in Jerry Garcia's house and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Gex had probably the most references that were completely over my head. I was just playing it as a
Yeah.
game, and I didn't get any of the references.
Didn't understand
but when
a
I
word
think
he was
about it
saying.
later, it's like I just remember it in the background of one of the levels. It was like paging Cheech and or Chong, Cheech and or Chong. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm just trying to
That's fine.
jump to this place. right
Yeah,
here.
how do I jump on top of this thing and swing my tail around in the right way?
So I'm
But
gonna
yeah,
I'm gonna
Gex,
list
gotta
off
bring 'em in.
some titles here. Mario Kart, I mentioned. Mario Party.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, I think it went up to 3, didn't it? It's like Mario Parties 1, 2, and 3 were
There were a
all
lot of
on.
Mario Parties. I still remember the original, hopping on
Yeah,
that
the OG.
early. Cruisin' USA. So this was an arcade game, but I had this on N64, and I remember this game.
I've only played it on the arcade.
One of the
That's very
great
funny.
intros as well. Cruisin', yay.
Yeah.
Cruisin' USA.
Oh wait, is Hydro Thunder on that list too?
Hydro Thunder.
That was
Oh, I
another
missed
like
that one.
yeah,
But
that's another one that
absolutely.
was on there.
Hydro Thunder. And that was,
Hi-
it's like every
Hydro
game. Yeah,
Thunder.
exactly. A couple that I didn't even write down, but like early OGs were Wave Race 64 and
Yeah.
Pilot Wings. Those were very
Yeah,
early
yeah.
64 games.
sure.
I think launch titles. Bomberman 64.
Yeah, the Bomberman stuff.
I remember a friend of mine played Bomberman a lot. You also had Bomberman Hero, which was completely different, but also, I don't remember it being very negative, but apparently people didn't like it. Yoshi's Story.
Oh, I
Spent
can't
a lot of
believe
time
I
with
didn't
that
put
one.
Yoshi's Story on there. Yoshi's Story is awesome.
1080 Snowboarding.
Oh yeah. What about Snowboard Kids?
I didn't play Snowboard Kids. I played 1080 Snowboarding, and I remember as you were spinning, there was a guy counting your rotations.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, yeah.
180, 360, 540.
Yeah, it was so fun.
Major League Baseball featuring Ken Griffey Jr. That was my intro.
Way to go.
It
We
probably,
like
if we
that.
had taken this out to a couple more rounds, would have gotten on my list. It was probably the baseball game I played the most in my whole life. And Ken Griffey and Edgar Martinez on the Mariners had a massive circle where basically the ball would come anywhere and you could get a hit. So it was like all, if you were a better hitter, you had a big circle. If you were a terrible hitter, you'd have a tiny circle. And I remember this happened just before the Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa home run race.
Oh yeah.
And I remember Sosa had a tiny circle. So it was like before he was known as a great hitter, before the
Yeah.
steroids, let's say.
Yeah, well,
And,
or the cork.
Yeah. But a fantastic game. It was probably the only time that I was ever a Mariners fan because the Mariners were just a powerhouse in that game.
You're a Mariners fan. Oh my god, I'm gonna throw up in my mouth.
South Park, the game.
Yeah,
I
South
played
Park.
this.
The game was crazy.
I remember you could pee in the snowball and then throw the pee
Yeah.
snowball.
That's the one I had to play that at one of my cousins' house because
Yeah.
well, our cousin's
Not
house
appropriate.
because not appropriate for me to have, but for him it was fine.
It's funny that was like the first South Park game that I think came out, and it was 3D, and it was like a first-person shooter. But the best South Park games that have come out since go back to like more of a 2D aesthetic, and they are completely different. More
Honestly,
turn-based
some of the
combat.
like I when I watch some of the gameplay of those, sometimes I think I'm watching an episode of because it's like so accurate to what it looks like on television now. You're like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, is
The
that a
newer
game
ones
or
you're
is that
talking.
yeah, the new ones
Yeah.
like the fractured butt
butthole.
hole and
Yeah.
the stick of truth or
Yep.
whatever.
Yep. Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. Did you play that game?
Yeah, I
Yep.
played that
Pod
one. It's
racing.
like the thing is the pod. I was never good at it, and I always crashed the pods, Jackie. I would try to be Sebulba, but
Yeah.
I would just crash the pods.
Mario Golf. I remember being
Yeah,
terrible at
golf
that
was
game.
awesome.
I remember in Mario Golf when you like basically completely failed to hit it, it would be like, duffed it.
Yeah,
And I would get that over and over and over again. It was like, shut up. I know.
Oh,
I'm bad at this.
another really good. I thought Mario Tennis was always fun.
Yeah, Mario Tennis.
Yeah, Mario Tennis
Yep.
is really good.
The pre-Wii tennis.
Yeah,
Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, probably the most difficult game I ever attempted on the N64. Just really, again, I was talking about sneaking games. This is like the ultimate
Yeah.
difficult sneaking around game. Because to me, I came from the 007, which like is a little bit more arcade style where you can still just like go and shoot guys. But in Rainbow Six, it's like I didn't understand that if you shoot a guy, it like alerts everybody and you kind of
Yeah.
lose. It's like you had to kind of refrain from doing that, which was not my MO at that time. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater,
yeah.
1 and 2, a 2 very late stage, but mainly 1 I played on N64, and I do also recall playing this on PlayStation at someone else's house. And obviously with Tony Hawk, you're talking about the soundtrack, just a real snapshot in time. And then one that probably was the closest to getting on my board, that it was really a struggle for me to pick between this and Donkey Kong 64. Kirby 64.
Yeah,
The Search for the
crystal
Crystal
shards.
Shards. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a fantastic game. Maybe one of the most underrated games that I would
Yeah,
put
Kirby
kind of
was
on
fun.
par with Yoshi's Story in terms of a game that is not like at the top echelon, but is maybe just below. A nice way to spend time and some really great just memories of some fun game mechanics with Kirby being able to turn into various things to help you out. And then again, the only thing that made it on my terrible game section was Hey You Pikachu, which I just remember being very frustrating. So that's it.
Oh yeah. Well,
That's the
Jackie,
N64 draft,
do
Tyler.
you want to? I would like to do 2 dishonorable mentions.
you do
for
your
the
dishonorables, yep.
N64. 1 game that I loved, but is a terrible game. Glover.
Oh,
Glover. Not a good game. Had it. Not good. Huh. Oh, huh. A lot of that. It's one of those things where it's like, how do you even? Who conceived of this and why? And then my other dishonorable mention, I rented this maybe 50 times from either Blockbuster or like whatever my local, it was Family Video sometimes too, Nobody knows what Family Video is. No one listening right now knows what Family Video is. And the answer is the Blues Brothers 2000 video game.
Oh,
Did
no.
you even know there was a Blues Brothers video
I
game?
feel like now that you say that, I remember seeing it around. I definitely never cracked it.
It
Never,
is
ever.
like, it has nothing. It's sort of like, imagine like Gex pretty much, but like with the Blues Brothers. So it's like sort of bright and colorful. Very weird. And it just like, yeah. You collect coins and stuff. It's like very weird. It's like trying to be a platformer game where you're playing as the Blues Brothers and you could have, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just a weird one.
Yeah, there are a lot of bad
Shouldn't have
games
made
that
it.
we haven't even mentioned. It was a weird time for sports games where now we have this kind of thing where most sports games, they're kind of consolidated franchises that release every year. But back in this day, they would have to linger. You wouldn't get updates of the roster either because there was no kind of internet piece to everything at this time. It was just kind of you got what was on the cartridge and that's it.
Yeah.
And, basically N64, I think, was the most formative console for me. I moved right from N64 and then to Xbox, and then I've kind of straddled between the Xbox consoles and the Nintendo consoles. I've never owned a PlayStation, Tyler. People that I know have had them. I've never had a PlayStation console.
Yeah, I snuck the PS2 into the house. I had the PS2. When I moved out, I got the PS4. I've had Xboxes as well. I am Nintendo Xbox as well, generally. But now, PC. I play pretty much all of my games on the PC.
I think it's very possible that in 5 years we're talking about Xbox as being something from the past. It is what it is. They need to do something to be competitive, and they just haven't. And I understand why people jump ship to PlayStation. However, I still can't get over the controller. That's kind of what keeps me in Xbox.
No, the DualShock, I think, might be the worst controller ever conceived.
That's a problem.
Besides the N64 controller, maybe.
So right now I'm rocking the Xbox Series X and the Switch 2, which I just acquired. Yeah. So I'm having a lot of fun there. I'll get a PlayStation, I think, if the Xbox ever truly just dies. But until then, I'll be one of the, 30 people that is still on Xbox on a regular basis.
Honestly, I don't know if I'm going to buy another console. This is going to sound so weird. The reason I'll buy a new console is for an exclusive game. So if the Super Smash Brothers stuff turns out to be true and they're making like an Ultimate 2 or they're making, a Melee 2, which is what I would prefer, cut down the roster and make the controls insane and make you able to wave dash again. Yeah. All that stuff. If you add that, I'm buying a Switch 2 immediately. I'm going to buy it. Or if somehow there was another Banjo-Kazooie game that came out on the Xbox and it was exclusive, you got me, Xbox. I'm buying another console. You can't, it's happening. But you got to do something with that IP. You can't just sit on your Rare IP, and you can't let Rare keep making all of the decisions for themselves because apparently they can't.
Rare just needs to go back and do Rare stuff. Okay, go do Rare stuff again. That's what I say.
So I think so too. Maybe Sundown Sea of Thieves. Maybe let it go. Maybe let it go.
Well, Tyler, this has been fun. We stepped our toe into video games for the first time.
We just stepped in.
On this
we dipped
podcast.
our toe.
I'd love to, return to this land and talk about more video games. Maybe some more extended conversations on things like, the Rare games, which we could do a whole thing unto themselves. We could just talk about Banjo-Kazooie for 3 hours.
Yeah, I could just talk about Banjo-Kazooie forever. In fact, maybe we should just do a live stream where we play games like we used to as brothers.
Yeah, do a little Banjo-Kazooie roundup where I'm just commenting on everything you're doing wrong.
And then I every time I die, we switch controllers. And it's then I comment on what you're doing wrong.
All right. Well, next week, Tyler. Well, first of all, 1 week from Thursday, you know what's going to happen. The
Amazing Digital Circus
is coming out in theaters, and luckily, it hasn't been massively upstaged by.
Luckily, there's no leaks or anything.
But we've successfully avoided the leaks, at least.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything.
All I've heard is that, 3 people online were disappointed. But that happens whenever anything comes out, so I'm going to reserve my judgment until I see it with my own 2 eyes, Tyler.
The only thing I've heard is that Gooseworks is equally angry at a fan base as I've been pretty much the entire time. Or their fan base. I'm sorry, Gooseworks. I don't actually know anything about you other than your name's Gooseworks and you made this show. So whoever Gooseworks is, they don't like their fans nearly as much as I don't like them either. It's okay. And the way that people are reacting to the leak is insane. Just if you're gonna watch it. If you don't try to, I don't know.
There's a really weird negative reaction to Glitch. It's almost like I don't know what people want. It's people love an independent project or studio until they get to the point where they're reaching for getting to the next level, and then it's nah, you got to cut
Yeah, we
it
don't
out.
want anything to do with that. Yeah, it's
It's
like,
like you're getting too big now.
right, the
Too big for
moment
your
that
britches. Now
Do
you're
you think
asking us
it's
to
that-
pay money to see your stuff.
I think it's might be a little bit to do with it. Like, oh, it's getting so much broad recognition now that the people who thought they were cool, that liked it to begin with, they're like, oh, now everybody likes it. Now, the thing that made me feel special for liking it, not many people knew about it. Oh, now I can't feel special and cool.
Yeah.
And it's like, why don't you want everybody to like the things that you like? Wouldn't it be really cool if that thing that you really liked, the person who created it, got their, like, you know, got their flowers for that? Isn't that a good thing? Don't you want the person who made something that brought you joy to get their flowers?
I
Give
think
them
it's a
the
good thing.
flowers. I think it's a great thing.
And I'm going to go in fresh, and I'm going to
too.
give it, my best kind of, purely just reacting to what I see. I'm not going to get hung up in the back and forth that's going around
No.
on the internet. I'm going to see it, and I'm going to talk about it with you. Now, we'll see what the timing of that is. We're both going to have to see it. We're both probably going to see it in theater, but we don't know when. I know you've got a wedding coming up.
Yeah.
But that's going to be in a couple of weeks. Next week, we are going to kind of be adjacent to talking about the Amazing Digital Circus. We're going to be ranking the Glitch Productions pilots that have come out in the last year or so. So we're not going all the way back to the first Glitch thing, which, what is the name of their first?
Just
kind of-
murder drones.
Murder
You're
drones.
thinking
So
of
we're not
murder
going to talk
drones.
murder drones. We're talking about the pilots that have come out that don't yet have succeeding episodes, which is the Gaslight.
Gameoverse. Oh,
Gaslight
you were doing
District.
2 Gs. Gaslight District, Gameoverse.
Gameoverse.
And Knights of... Knights of something with a G.
Knights of Guinevere.
Guinevere, yeah.
So we're going to talk about those, and then we'll also throw in the pilot of the Amazing Digital Circus just to,
Compare, contrast.
exactly. It'll kind of be like the stick against which to measure. We'll kind of have different categories. We'll give each one a ranking. We'll talk about it. And I have seen all of them. I'm going to have to watch them again, I think. I'm not watching the Amazing Digital Circus again. I'm good on that. I've seen that pilot a bunch, but I'm going to watch the other three at least once or
Yeah.
twice more. And then we'll kind of go through our scorecards and see where it all shakes out and talk about which one we really want to see get more episodes. If, maybe there's a
Yeah.
couple that we want to see where they go. Maybe there's some where we don't think that they should get any more episodes and they should just focus energy on one or the other. And that's probably going to be part of that conversation, Tyler. But I think that's it. Thank you for listening to the Brother Sinatra podcast. I'm Jack Sinatra.
And I'm Tyler Sinatra. And
we're the Brothers
Sinatra.
Oh, banana.